there, Vault Dwellers. Follow us as we take a topic from the Fallout universe and discuss it in a group of diverse individuals. We are the Fallout Roundtable. Join us, the conversation has already started.
Hello, and welcome to the Fallout Roundtable Extra. We're calling this, what were we calling this again? I forgot.
uh, Rewind something. God, no, I'm forgetting.
I don't know. We're just
Episode
deep
rewinds or something like
episode
that.
rewind. Sure, that sounds good. It's deep diving into each episode of the Fallout on Prime series. We've been just a little bit excited about it. Just sad. I don't know if you caught the episode one yet, but we went very deep into every scene of the first episode, and we're going to do the same this time. So this is an extension of the Fallout Roundtable, and you can find us at Fallout RTB on Twitter. You can email us falloutrtb@gmail.com, or you can find us here on YouTube, Fallout Roundtable, or I don't know, probably anywhere else. We are streaming on Thursday evenings on Twitch, Fallout Roundtable, where we do our regular episodes. And I have Eric or Sulior with me on these episodes, and go ahead and plug all your
Jeez.
stuff.
Well, the Fallout related show that I do is called Tapes from the Waste. I actually just did an episode with my co-host Kelsey about the show as well, our part two. So it's definitely on my brain. I've also got a Starfield podcast, Elder Scrolls, lots of Bethesda related podcasts. Just look me up on Twitter and you'll find a link to pretty much all of their shows, those shows on my bio. Yeah, link in the bio. Yeah, it more wholesome link in the bio for that.
Yeah, that's pretty much the thing. Everybody's link in the bio, link in the bio. All right. So to jump right in, we're doing episode 2 today. I forget the name of these. I should remember to keep track of
You know what?
those
I didn't even
the
think to
names of
write
them.
the name of the episode down.
I remember that the first one was called the end, but I can't remember what
Yeah,
episode 2
yeah.
was called. So probably not important. I will keep track of that in the future. So we open up this episode to the ink spots into each life. Some rain must fall.
Love
I
that.
just love the music. We're all big fans of the
Yeah.
music that Fallout has chosen, or Bethesda has chosen to put into the Fallout games and now the TV series. We all became big fans or new fans of all this 40s and 50s music, the big band, all of that. The some of
The
us who are
episode
of a
is called The
certain age.
Target, by the way.
What was it called?
The Target,
The
which
Target.
makes
Yeah, the
sense
Target. It does
because,
because this is how we're introduced to the target that everyone is after.
yep.
But Bethesda introduced us or reintroduced us, if you're of a certain age, to a lot of this music. I remember my grandmother listening to big band when I was a kid, and it kind of takes me back to that and kind of, I don't know, gives me little warm fuzzies and reminds me of my grandmother listening to this kind of stuff and me as a kid going, okay, whatever, you know. But now I love it. So we see a scene of a man in a lab coat working with puppies who look
hmm
horrible. Like apparently they're just
Yeah, he
born.
just incinerates one, like right in like this other guy does, and he
Well, we
just didn't
see a
even really
like
react.
we see a poster or a sign or something that says that anything under 10 ounces has to be incinerated. So they're weighing the puppies and they just off the bat incinerate, just toss them right in a couple, and that's just sad. And
Somebody in the Modus Files Discord said it looked very Nazi-ish, which is
it
appropriate.
does.
Like, because even even his look is very like German scientists
They do have that
doing their
that
experiments.
kind of look. Yeah, they do have that kind of look. I don't know if it's like his little round glasses or what it is,
Yeah,
but he does have a
you
certain
just expect
aesthetic.
that accent to come out of him, but no.
No,
Um,
he's regular dude, but we see him weighing this puppy who obviously is not 10 ounces, but he fakes the weight and brands this puppy as CX404.
Hmm.
And he has like a little certain bond with CX404. And we see them doing a little of what looks to be like behavioral engineering. And he clearly has a bond with this dog. He's faked the weight so she won't be incinerated. And you see him kind of he's trying to not get caught, but trying to act like, oh, everything's normal as he walks this dog
Yeah.
out past guards, like right under their noses, out of the lab, like everything's normal, like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, but you can tell he's kind of not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and takes this dog back to his quarters, what you think is his quarters, but looks like maybe a little private lab, something.
Yeah. Well, and didn't was this when he opens up like the hidden passage?
Well, he has
Um,
like a little hole in the wall that he has hidden,
yeah.
and he hides her in this hole in the wall. This
Right.
is where
So
like
yeah.
she lives, she stays. So he's hiding her, and he's keeping her like probably not in a kennel where all the other dogs are, but he's
Yeah.
keeping her in what I assumed was like his quarters or his private lab. So he's not like this dog's not being studied, reported, or whatever. And
Right.
my husband's theory is that he was doing his own experiments on this dog, that he
Right.
was,
And then he ended up using it on himself. And I kind of let him jump ahead there. But
I
yeah,
don't
whatever
think that's
he's doing,
related.
whatever bioengineering he's doing. Right. Okay.
Right. So yeah, he's working
Um,
on something. He's working on something in his little private lab. And yeah, so when my husband watched it, he's like, well, I think he's doing his own studies on this dog because we do see him,
right.
the dog's running on a treadmill, but I don't know if that's just because obviously a dog needs exercise. I mean, it's a Belgian Malinois. That dog is not
Yeah.
going to be like, I'm a couch dog.
He had to motivate it with a teddy bear.
Right. So he's got this, teddy bear hanging at the end of the treadmills so that, the dog has something to run for. And I think
Hmm.
mainly, he's doing that to give the dog exercise because he can't just go, let's go for a walk, buddy, because he's not supposed to
Right.
have the
Because then
dog.
they would, yeah, he's not supposed to have the
That's
dog.
what I
Right.
think. I think that, like, I don't know that he's necessarily studying, doing anything to the dog. I think he's like, the dog is just his pet now. But
Yeah, it definitely makes
I
sense.
think that the treadmill is to give the dog exercise because he's hiding the dog in a wall. The dog is not getting a lot of exercise. I think the studying that he's doing is something for himself. Now we know what this is many episodes
Later on.
later.
Yeah.
Um, but what he does, so we see him doing that. He's working on something while while the dog is, they're living. The dog is obviously getting bigger. And so you then see him injecting whatever it is he's working on, and it's like a blue glowy substance. He injects it into the back of his neck behind his ear.
Hmm.
And you don't know, is it like a microchip? I mean, what is this? Like a little vial? We don't know
Yeah, there
what
were a
this
lot of
is.
theories about that from the trailers.
Yeah, we
Again,
all had we all had our theories. So I know when we did our conjecture show from the trailers, we were like, "Oh, is he injecting himself with FEV? Is he going to be a super
because he did
mutant?"
kind of look like Dr. Virgil, a little
He
bit.
looked like he could have been a Virgil-esque character. That's kind of what we had thought. So I think, not we don't think it's maybe that now because we see that it's some kind of like it looks like a little. I mean, like I said, I don't know if it's like a microchip or some kind of little pellet type thing or
Yeah,
something
because
that
he
he's
did inject the
injected.
dog too at one point. So,
They did that in the very beginning before he took her. I don't think he injects the dog. I mean,
hmm,
not once he takes her. That was like a beginning thing. And I don't know if they inject her with like a chip, like a microchipping their dogs or something, but they do tattoo them. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that was about, but he took her after that because I think he didn't want her further conditioned the way they were doing. Because you notice
right,
when they show the scene of all the dogs sitting there, they've got some kind of transmitters on the back of their necks or something, and they're all like
right.
pink,
Yeah, it's true.
like robot dogs. So whatever it is they're doing with these dogs, I don't think he wanted her part of it. And we
Yeah,
know she's not very well behaved because he's like, sit, sit, sit. And she's just like, whatever.
like any dog.
Like my dog. My dog's like, "Do you have treats in your hands?" No, I'm not going to sit. It's like I only sit for food. Um, so we see that he's after he's injected himself, he gets himself ready. He's like packing up. He's going to leave this facility. One thing that I noticed, he has a pit boy. He
Yeah,
straps
yeah.
on his pit boy.
I didn't notice that the first time that I watched, but I did the second time. I'm like,
I noticed it the first time. I
where
was
did that
like,
come
Duder
from?
has a pit boy, but he's not in a vault. What? So that was interesting because I'm like, we don't know what kind of facility this is yet, first of all. Not right away. At this moment in time, we
I
don't
mean,
know
we
what kind
kind
of
of have a
facility.
little bit like because they mentioned the Enclave. Was it in the first or was it the first episode or was it this? I think it was the first episode. Um, like his who was it? Was it
Well, okay, so
holdover?
yes, they we do get the we do know that that's the target.
But at the same time, like the general viewer isn't going to know who the Enclave is. So,
New people wouldn't know.
right,
Only people who've played the games would know. And
yeah,
so this is why, because we if you're good at looking at weird sketches, then you would catch that, okay, he's the guy, he's the target,
yeah,
he's the one they're looking for. Uh, and of course, we know that he has a companion who's a dog. That would be the CX-404.
hmm
And so, you have to think, okay, this is probably an enclave facility. And, but he has, okay, so he's got a Pip Boy, which is Vault Tech. So what's up with that? Now, we have kind of like off and on wondered if Enclave and Vault Tech weren't kind of some kind of hand in hand
yeah. Which
cooperative
they had to have been. Um,
situation. That's kind of been one of the weird theories that have gone back and forth in the games, but we have no confirmation on this. We still don't. It's still a theory, but this kind of gives you a little bit more to kind of suck on there, a little bit more to chew on. Like, oh, if he has a Pip Boy, he's Enclave. Does that mean? I mean, it just kind of gives a little more
yeah,
substance to the Vault Tech and Enclave working together theory. Because otherwise, why does he have a Pip Boy? So he puts on
right.
this Pip Boy and he's packing up to leave, but somebody has found him out and somebody comes into his, and we don't hear them talking, but they're clearly arguing. We kind of see this as viewed by the dog, kind of. The dog's kind of watching these two people interact. We don't hear what they're saying, but they're obviously arguing. They're not pleased, that this is going to. And all the dog sees is that, Wilzig is in trouble. This is her person, and he's in,
hmm
he's her person, and he's in trouble. And so she attacks this other person that's come in and who's arguing with Wilzig, and she kills him. You see a lot of bloodshed, so apparently she's gone for the jugular. There's blood everywhere on the floor, and Wilzig is just sitting there in shock. And she comes up and nuzzles his hand, and now he has blood all over his hand. So it's obvious to you as a
He's in
viewer
trouble.
that she has killed this person. Shh, shh, shh. Garbage truck is coming. So the dog is growling. So,
Speaking of dogs being,
yeah, dog meat. My dog meat is growling. So now there's some kind of alarms going off in the facility that there's an incident, and Wilzig's like, we gotta go. So
hmm
he gets the dog together. He's trying to very calmly leave so nobody suspects him, but he's like trying to make tracks too. He's like, we gotta get. So once he's outside, he ditches his, um, his Pit Boy, and I'm guessing because that can track him. So he,
yeah, which makes
he
sense.
uses it to get out of the facility, but then he ditches it as soon as he's out. And then one of my favorite things happens. The turrets pop up with a little monitor that says, "Please remain calm
While
as we
while
shoot the
we're
crap out of
shooting
you."
you, yeah. And when I first saw that in the trailer, I thought maybe it was shooting at a mole miner because he was like hunched over, had his jacket over his head.
In
I
his
was like,
white
that
laptop.
kind of looked like a, well, it looked dirty at that point. So I was like, maybe that's a mole
Guess
miner,
that
but
doesn't
no,
matter.
it was Wilson. But yeah, it's just one of
I
those things where it's like you're analyzing like frame by frame. I was
uh
like, it kind of looks like a mole miner, but
I
no,
loved
it was him.
I want turrets in my camp that say, please remain calm. I love that. So, we watch him somehow get out of there unscathed because apparently these are turrets that don't do their job. And so he gets out, he gets away with 404 or 4, whatever we're calling her, 4, I think is what he calls her. And they get away. And we then see the Fallout logo, which gets shot up, which was pretty cool. And then we cut to the next scene, which is Lucy walking on the beach as we
Yep,
hear "Don't fence me in," which we see a lot of
because
really good. Uh, and I don't know how much of this is like probably CGI stuff or maybe Photoshopped. I don't, whatever they do. I'm not film person, but we see some really good background shots of, you know, shacks and abandoned buildings and like the um, old decrepit ship that's buried in sand that
yeah,
she walks next to. The scene that everybody just laughed at when she gets startled by the tumbleweed that's rolling by, and she's like, "What the?" But you live your entire life in a vault, and all of a sudden, this plant comes running at you, and of course it's going to startle you. It's nothing you've ever seen before. And you don't know
yeah,
if it's like, for all she knew, it could have been sentient and it was attacking her. She didn't know that it was something being blown by the wind. They didn't have that in the vault. You
no,
know, things didn't blow around randomly in the vault because no wind,
there was no, yeah,
you know, and
a
now she's
little
dealing
bit of
with,
air conditioning. That's about it.
right. And, now she's dealing with ocean gales. So, that was I thought that was legitimate to be startled. I mean, and you're also, she doesn't know what to expect. So her senses are already heightened. And I know how I get that way because I don't see very well at night. So, and especially if
Mm.
I'm tired, like anything like startles me because I'm just like, oh, the slightest little thing, I feel like, because I'm always just hyper aware.
Yeah,
So I can see being, I can
I
see
just
that.
thought that the environmental storytelling in this whole sequence was so good.
I thought
I
so.
just talked about this on tapes from the waste, but that's one of the things that Fallout in general does so well. Going through, well, we're both playing through Fallout 3 for the Fallout feed, and you go to Minefield, and this is one thing that stuck with me from the first time I played Fallout 3 is you go into these houses in Minefield and you see like the positioning of these skeletons, and they've been there for over 200 years, and you can picture what is happening while the apocalypse is taking place. There's the two, there's the couple that's laying together in bed and they're cuddling, and that's how they've been ever since then. So you get that as the scene is playing out with where Lucy is going through this house,
Hmm.
and there's a family sitting around the table,
Yeah.
and she finds a bottle of poison.
Yeah.
So, one of the
Yeah.
parents or whatever was trying to spare their family that. And
Yeah. Yeah,
oh
the family
God.
at the breakfast table.
Yeah.
The Vault Tech Plan D bottle, the Econo Savings Plan.
Yeah. Which you find out that's what it was later on, at
Hmm.
the end of the
Well, it
episode.
says it on the
But,
bottle.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I read the
And mostly it
bottle.
kind of tells you all about it at the end. But
Yeah, that you get explained like what it is later in the
yeah.
episode, but um, I read the bottle because, of course, it's what I do. Drugs are my life, so I see a drug bottle and I'm like, ooh, what's that? Because we didn't have. I didn't know if it was something we had in game or if it was something new. And of course, it's something new. We've
Right.
never seen that. And and who else was just like, why doesn't she loot this place? Anywhere she like, because if you're a Fallout player, you're not playing the game unless you're over encumbered because we loot everything. She never
Right. I
loots any
mean,
of these places that she goes into. We're like, Look
It
around. Find
probably
something
had
useful
to,
in the cabinet.
yeah, it probably had to do with the her Vault Tech upgrade. Oh, stealing is wrong. It doesn't matter if it
I'm
is.
sure
That
she's
kind
a
of plays
good
into the whole
person.
shootout in Philly later on too, which we'll get to that. But
Oh,
yeah,
I know.
that
Yeah, that
was
that was a whole thing too.
probably
Yeah, I have notes on that.
what
Like,
was going through her
girl,
mind. It's like, well, even though these people are dead, that's still stealing, and
right?
stealing is
Yeah.
wrong.
And then one other thought that I had when she was, when she was startled by the tumbleweed is she sees a half buried assaultron in the sand.
Yeah, yeah, which
That
I
was so
missed that the
good.
first time
And when
that I
we
saw
when we
this,
had
but
done the interview with Zach and he was talking about they had borrowed a prop that someone had made, um,
yeah,
like that assaultron that they had borrowed from someone,
which
and
yeah, if you guys
beautiful
haven't
work.
checked that out, definitely go check that out. That was awesome.
And that assaultron that was buried in the sand looked so good. And then I kept thinking, like, ooh, she's so lucky it's dead. Like I want to
Yes.
see her run into one that's alive at some point in the
Yeah,
series
like
and just
what's
see
that
like what on
syringer
earth
gonna
she
do
thinks
against an
of that.
assaultron?
Because I'm sure like they had robots in the vault, right? Didn't they? Did they not? I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean they had to because there were Mr. Handies in Fallout 3, at least one of them.
I mean, I can't remember if
Um,
they did in their vault or not. I don't remember seeing any.
I
So
don't know
I
if
don't
there
know
were
if they
any in
did and we
their
just didn't
vault,
see
but
them or what. So I don't know if she's familiar with them at all. Um, but Saltrons are just a whole special. They're my least favorite robots. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like
I'd
them.
rather an assaultron than a sentry bot,
No,
but
I'd
that's
rather a
just
sentry
me.
bot. They're slow.
Yeah, but they're
I'd
powerful.
rather a sentry bot than a Saltron, and I've never seen a sentry bot go invisible.
True.
Because when those Assaultrons
Yeah.
go invisible, it's like, holy crap, where'd they go? You don't like them.
Yeah, the one
They're
in 76 when you're going to get the like was it the Grafton, not Grafton, but the mining company, Garrison Mining Company, when you are getting your first set of power armor through the quest, when you
yeah.
hit level 23. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times that one killed me.
Mine was when you were doing the quest with Ra and Gale. You had to
Yeah.
get Ra
Hmm.
out of the pipes or whatever. And there was that one in there, and I finally figured out how to avoid it. And here's a tip: shoot the legs
Hmm.
because then they have to crawl
They can
towards you,
still
and that
blast
slows
you
them
with their
down.
head
They can still
laser,
blast
but
you, but
yeah,
at least it slows them down, and you know where they are. But
they're not
oh
gonna
man,
gut you.
therapy. I just remember when I first started playing 76, and this is like totally off the subject, which we do very well. When there was no people in the game, I
Yeah.
literally one of the reasons that I kind of quit was because I was so done with like having to go on a quest. I had to go this certain way, and it was no matter how much I tried to sneak around or whatever, this one assaultron would always find me and just turn me to pulp. I was
Their
like, I
perception is
am
off the
done trying
charts.
this. And I was pretty low level, and it was a pretty low level quest, and the stupid assaultron would always just pulverize me. But
Yeah, with the way I am, my determination, I'm like, all right, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna beat
I
this anyway.
usually am too, but I think it was just because of the fact that I had lost my son and I were playing together and I had already lost, he had already lost interest in it. So I didn't really have anybody to play with at the time. So it was like, I'll just go back to playing Fallout 4. It's like I'm gonna go back to building my wonder dream. Oh, and this is for Andrew. Build up Nordhagen Beach Family Resort, the best
Stay off of
resort,
Nordhagen
the
Beach.
best beach ever. So back to the episode. So Lucy goes ahead and she finds a place to settle down. She builds herself a fire. She recites her little, I don't know, it's like some kind of scout thing to remember how to build a fire. She builds her fire. She sleeps. She takes her pit boy off, goes to sleep, everything. Next thing she knows, she's woken up by a growling dog,
Hmm.
which is a little creepy, not gonna say. I mean, I probably wouldn't have just like, I don't know, slept out in
Yeah,
the
there's so many
open.
things like your mind starts like, okay, is that a Yaogwai? Is that
Right? I would have totally
what is
hidden
this?
in a house that would have been hard for anybody to get into, much less something big. But she's out there in the open, just enjoying life. Like I'm at Girl Scout camp, and she gets woken up by a growling dog, and Wilzig has found her. And here's Four. The reason Four is growling is because there's a rad roach out there. So
Yep.
Four jumps on the rad roach, which is almost the size of Four, kills it. She's over there rah, 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 killing it. And Wilzig opens with a joke. Not really a joke, but how, back before the war, people used to joke that only the cockroaches would survive a
Yep.
nuclear bomb. And he said not only did they survive, but they improved. And then he talks about how they improved and now they can actually murder people. And so you see all this time, while he's talking, Four is tearing this rad roach apart. And it's kind of unnerving, because he's talking about the ways that the roaches have improved, and Four is tearing this thing to bits, and it's big. It's really big compared to what we have now. I mean, it's even
Yeah.
bigger than the ones you see in Texas, where everything is big. Of course, they call them palmetto bugs there to make them fancy. And they are big. I've seen them. They're big, very big. And he tells her that she should know better than to light a fire after dark.
Yeah, because that'll
Because,
attract raiders and who knows what.
Mhm. And vault dwellers are endangered species. Because she comes from a place of rules, of laws, and this place is indifferent to all that. And that her, not willing to do what it takes to survive up here is what's going to get her killed. And he says that if she insists on staying, that she is going to have to adapt. And when she adapts, is she going to want the same things when she becomes different? When she becomes a different animal altogether, is she going to want the same things? And he keeps telling her to go home
Yep.
because, she's not going to like who she becomes if she adapts to the wasteland. And the whole time, she tells him, I can't go home. I have to find my dad. I can't go home. And so she's trying to steel herself against, basically
Yeah.
what he's saying. She's trying to
You're
understand what
just trying
he's
to scare
saying.
me, but I won't be intimidated.
Yeah. Yeah. She's trying to show that she's tough enough to handle it and that she's willing to do whatever she has to do. And he doesn't know that she is, but he's trying to basically present her with the worst of the worst and see what she does.
Hmm.
And she says she's going to do it. And then he leaves and she's just kind of like, okay. She's like,
Appreciate it.
who are you? And he just, he never gives her any answers to her questions. So now we
No,
flash on to a vertibird.
that was cool.
That was very cool. My son was like, "Oh my gosh!" He goes, "This isn't my favorite model of vertibird, but it looks really good." It's the bubble front type. I don't know what that means. I mean, I guess because it looks like the rounded front,
Yeah.
and it looks really good. You get to see the cockpit. You see where the pilot's feet go, and he has like the big window underneath where he can see the ground. It's really neat. You see where the knight like kind of attaches himself in with his little armrests and stuff, and it's cool. We see them flying, and I love the shot of the vertibird flying over water, and you get that really nice reflection of the vertibird. It's so cool. And
Yeah, that was brilliant.
it was beautiful, beautiful cinematography. So Max is trying to make conversation with Knight Titus, and it's
Which was awkward.
not going well.
No,
And Titus doesn't really answer him. He just rips off his crotch plate, throws it at Max, and says, "Clean this."
which he does.
And
It's
he
like,
doesn't enjoy it, but he does. And then he puts it back on. And then Titus walks up to the pilot and bang, bang, tells him
and he's
to
like,
land because
I'm
he's
bored.
bored
Yeah.
and he wants to shoot something. And Max says, "But we're miles from where we're supposed to be." And Titus just gives him this look. Well, whatever look you can give when you're in power armor. But you
He's
get the
like, "Are you
impression he's not
questioning me?"
basically. Yeah. Yeah, gives him that like your job is not to speak. Not your job is not to have opinions. So, yeah, Titus is basically going to make a point. So the pilot drops him off and he flies away. And Max grabs his big giant bag and he struggles off after Titus. And they take off into um, the wilds, is what they called it, right?
Yeah.
Wilds.
This is when I get that really ridiculously oversized bag.
The bag is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I'm
It's
wondering
so
why
funny.
it's so big, unless it is just a statement on the fact that every
It
Fallout
has to
player,
be.
for the
Yeah.
most part, plays the game
We
over encumbered, and that's
yep.
literally how we walk around. It
It's like
you
how
it
else do you fit
we don't
everything in
look
such a
like
small
that.
space? Yeah.
Well, and and it's funny because in the game we have these little tiny backpacks, and we carry around probably on average of what, 6 weapons or more.
Yeah, at
And I'm not talking
least.
about sidearms. I'm talking about like heavy
And
weapons.
Gatling lasers and
Uh,
flamers and
yeah, like assault, rifles and
yep.
assault rifles and flamers, big weapons.
Not to mention
Plus,
everything
my
else.
character has an entire wardrobe that she carries
Yep.
around because you just never know what a girl wants to wear.
I mean, you at least have your own body weight in there and probably then some.
Oh, at least. I mean, well, more than that, because I think my carry weight right now is 300 and plus pounds at 76.
Wow, mine's around 260.
I think
But
it's
I mean, it depends
300.
on whether or not I've had some rad stag meat and everything else.
Well, one
But
of my girls is unfortunately a vegetarian, so she's always struggling. I'm like, why did I make her vegetarian? See, I was thinking of the XP buffs,
yeah.
not the practicality of the fact that so now I have to make regular trips to Vault 51 so I can get the beer. I can't think of the name of the beer right now that gives you the bonus. And then
Oh,
she carries a
right.
lot of, she has to use a lot of carry weight uh, buffs.
Which, yeah, the fact that they introduced the carry weight boosters was really nice because they didn't used to be a thing. But also, if you carry a lot of those have weight too. It's like you have
They
things
do.
to boost your encumbrance level, but also are weighing you down.
But if you use one, you can get more. All right, this is probably a good time for a break. Somebody just got home and now my dog is
Okay.
going nuts. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, welcome to Three Count Thoughts. Let me introduce the crew real quick.
Hi, I'm Maverick Stone.
I'm Romer.
And I am Jaxus. Join us as we talk all things wrestling. Each week, we'll take a topic from the wrestling world, knock it around a bit, and then go over the week in wrestling from a strictly fan perspective. We can be found on all major podcast catchers. We can also be found at Three Count Thoughts on both YouTube and Twitter. Or you can send us an email using threecountthoughts@gmail.com. Okay, are you ready? Ring the bell.
Okay, and we're back. So our next scene, gonna jump right in. We've got a lot coming up. Like this is a packed episode, another packed episode.
hmm
All right, so we come into we now see Wilzig and Four walking in the woods. And he stops to rest and he takes off his lab coat and he just ditches it and he opens up a can of cram and you see him like open the can and sniff it. I don't see him eat it. So I don't blame him. Maybe it was for the dog. I don't know.
Might have been, yeah.
It could have been. But they're sitting near a cave and Four runs off and investigates this cave and you kind of get a foreboding feeling about this.
Yeah.
And you see a
It's-
sign that says caution hazardous waste and that's never a good thing. I mean, never, especially in a Fallout game. And Wilzig is kind of putzing around doing some more exchanging with his backpack. He puts on another jacket, probably hoping to, I don't know, not look so conspicuous. And Four comes trotting back, like, look at me, I'm a good dog, with a hand
Yep.
in her
This
mouth.
is where that hand comes from,
This is where the hand comes from that we saw in the trailer. So she
and
comes trotting back
Wilsig gets this
with a
oh
human hand
shit look on his face.
severed at the wrist. Just look, Dad, look what I got. uh, so Wilzig notices this and he starts looking around and starts seeing a bunch of skeletons kind of just scattered
Yep.
around the area. And he's looking very nervous. So I'm assuming you don't see it, but you just assume that he's like, okay, break time's over, and probably takes off. So the next scene that we see is Max and Titus come into this same area, presumably at a later
Yep.
time, and they find the evidence that Wilzik has been there. They see the discarded lab coat, they find the can of cram, and Max says, "Oh, hey, look, you know what I found? He's been here." Somehow he knows, oh, it's lab coat. Obviously, it's the targets. Here
Yep.
we have found evidence that he has been here. And then they hear a roar of this creature, and Titus decides it's going to be this great idea that they must go investigate this cave. Personally, I would just be out, but no, Titus wants to
He
go
did
see the
say he
cave.
wanted something to shoot, so
He did say that. Although it was him who wanted something to shoot it, but when they get in the cave, what does he do?
he has Maximus take a look.
Yeah, you go.
Ugh.
You go first. And
Yeah,
Max
this
even
is when his
says,
abuse starts
I
coming in,
don't
like
have
even more than the
armor.
vertebrate. Yeah.
Yeah. And Max even says,
Which,
but I don't have armor. And he says, and then Titus says, you earned the suit through acts of bravery. This
yeah,
is an act of bravery.
which is bullshit. But I mean, that is kind of like what Tony Stark was telling Spider-Man in the first Spider-Man movie. You need to be more than just the suit, but that's such a cop out.
Well, it
Like
kind
he
of
just
is
we you knew
because
he just didn't want him to he didn't want to go in himself.
I mean, here you are, the dude with the big bad armor. You've got all the protection, like way more than the kid does, even if you aren't even if you don't have the best protection, you got more. And instead of being like, get behind me because I'm the 7.5 foot tall dude in metal,
Yeah.
you're like, I'll go behind you, little meat puppet.
Hmm.
Like it
He's
was
the bait.
it was bad. Yeah. Like you're the
Yeah.
bait. Yeah. So you even see Max get frustrated because his flashlight dies. So he doesn't even have light. He just wanders in. And Titus is egging him on the entire time, basically calling him names and telling him he's basically useless, whatever. He's just being really cruel to him. And, are you seeing anything? You worthless, whatever. And Max
Yeah, he's
finally,
calling him dipshit and everything
yeah,
else. Like, come on,
it's
dude.
like, really? So Max finally turns around and looks and he sees that, oh, well, the Alguai's not in here. He was out there. And now the Alguai has found
You hear him
Titus
growling
standing
and
right
yeah.
behind him. So Titus starts fighting the Alguai. But when it turns out that the Yagwai is just a bit more than he can handle, he starts running like a little
Fuck, fuck, fuck,
like a
fuck.
little boy in his power armor. This is where he gets the big scratch,
Yep,
the
right on the
big
chest, on the
clawed section
emblem.
on the chest plate. He gets that in this fight with the Yagwai, and he goes running, which is now a big meme.
Yep.
This scene is a meme of him running, fuck, 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 fuck,
It's so funny.
which is really
It's like
funny. It is pretty humorous, total humor.
it's poetic justice,
It
really.
really
But
is. It really, I mean, the whole thing is poetic justice, not gonna lie. So he trips and falls, which once they trip and fall, like you can't get up
that's
very
it.
easily in power
Yeah.
armor. You're just down. So he's being mauled by the bear. The bear's just kind of tossing him around, play with your food, you know.
Yep.
And he's crying for help, help me, shoot him, blah, blah. So Max shoots the Agui and the Agui dies. So he
What are you
saves his
waiting for?
life, totally
Yeah.
saved his life, which by the way, the 10 mil was amazing. My son loved it. He was like,
Yeah.
look at the 10 mil, it's amazing. It was great. I do like it. I absolutely was just like, it looked so
A lot of people are like,
cool,
how like that was a lucky shot or something because it should have taken more. But
right?
it's
He
like,
should
okay, you got to incorporate a
he should
little
have
bit
shot
of
Titus, right?
realism
But
into
no, he
this.
was a
But
good shot. He was a good
yeah,
shot. So then Titus starts having his little baby meltdown. He
hmm
starts throwing a fit, you know.
saying it was his fault and all
I've
this
got
other
this
shit.
2,000 pound mutated beast, blah, 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 sitting on me. This is your fault. This is the cleric's fault, sending me on stupid missions for toasters and da 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 da. And he's having a big old fit. And when Max gets the helmet off of him, we see he's kind of a dweeby guy.
Hmm.
You know, he
Yeah,
doesn't give you that vibe that he's like a cool knight. He's kind of a dweeb in a suit. And he's still, I mean, for
it's
somebody who,
Johnny, not Johnny Pemberton.
no,
Yes,
that's the
that's
other
the
scribe.
Squire.
Squire, yeah, the other squire. I always, if I ever call a squire a scribe, it's because for some reason my brain wants to do that. I can't think of his name, but he's just
Michael Rappaport.
Rappaport, yeah.
Yeah.
The juxtaposition between what you think a knight should look like and then this guy is just, I think that was on purpose.
Yeah.
And for somebody who wants help, he's going about it the entire wrong way. I mean, he's trapped. He can't get up because he's on the ground in power armor. It's not easy to get up. And he's got this bear on top of him. He needs help, but he's being a complete ass to his squire.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to be nice to him either. And he's give me a stim pack. He's bleeding. He obviously needs help. Give me a stim pack, give me a stim pack. But he's not being nice about it.
No, he's being an asshole.
He's being
It's
a
like,
complete jerk. And so, Max goes and gets the stim pack, but then he's like listening to this abuse and he's just like,
screw
I don't
you. Yeah.
know. Maybe I won't give this to you.
Yeah, he straight up tells he's like, yeah, you don't deserve that armor,
Mm-hmm.
based on like the Brotherhood's values.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
And he's like,
because you flash back again to when Maximus is a child, getting out of that dairy cooler and seeing
mhm,
a Brotherhood knight in his armor, and he has that idealistic view of they're here to help, they're here to save. He has a very high view of what a knight should be,
right.
and this dude ain't it.
No,
And so
he's a,
he's sitting here, Titus is telling him they're going to kill you for what you did. They're going to hang you up and your vultures are going to eat you and da 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 da. And he's looking at him and he's like, you don't deserve the suit.
yeah. And
And
he's like, well,
Titus
not
says,
if I
oh,
complete
and
the
you
mission.
do. And
Yep.
it's just, the whole time, and the guy just still thinks that his little squire is going to take all this abuse and still give him a stim pack instead of just watch him die. And that's what
Right.
Max does. He just sits there and watches him die. And then well, he's going to take the suit, but this is where we end the scene because he says, no, you don't deserve the suit. And Titus says, well, they'll kill you for this. And Max says, not if I bring back the target. So he's already got it in his head. He knows, yeah, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I have a way out. So he's already
Yeah.
thinking, he's thinking. So now we go back to Lucy. And this is one of the more fallouty scenes that you could possibly get. Lucy runs, she comes across a homestead, I guess, in the wasteland. And there's a man working on a contraption. We find out it's a water purifier. And we're going to affectionately call him Diaper Man because it's basically what he's wearing, and a shirt and a hat. And so she walks up to him and she has her tranquilizer, her
Yeah, she's
syringer,
got her weapon aimed at
pointing
the
at him,
guy.
saying, "Hi, can you give me
Yeah,
directions?"
completely cheerful, like overly cheerful
Right, while she's
demeanor.
pointing her
With
weapon, which
her,
is weird. Like, "Hi, can you give me directions while I hold this weapon at you?"
like,
And he's like, "I'm not armed." And she's like, "Oh." Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah. Like she just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
So they're talking about the water filter, because he's like, I don't understand why this water filter won't work. I keep putting sand in it. I'm just getting sand. She says, well, have you tried water? And he looks at her like,
Oh,
you got any? And she says, well, I have a canteen if you want a sip. And he drinks
he
all of her water.
chugs it. Yeah.
And he tells her, well, when somebody offers you water, if you find any water, you just drink all of it, whether you're thirsty or not.
Yeah,
In
because
the
you don't know when you're
wasteland,
going to get it anymore.
you just do it because you don't know. So these are things that she's learning, because she didn't know. She thought the polite thing would be to offer a sip. She didn't know that in the wasteland, if you're offered water, you take all of it.
Hmm.
She just didn't know. So
But yeah, that's
he,
another good example of just the things that the wasteland can do to you psychologically, just the toll it took on him. And
yeah,
while he's walking around pantsless and putting
right.
sand in a water
And of course,
purifier.
right. Well, and the fact that it didn't occur to him that she offered him a sip, and it didn't occur to him at all to like drink all of her water. It did not bother him one bit. And and
Yeah.
she's trying. She's like, "Well, I might need I might want some." And he's like, "Doesn't matter. You
Yeah.
offered. I'm taking."
Hmm.
You know. So he asked her if she's going to Philly, and she's like, "Oh, what's Philly?" And he says, "The town right over the hill," because I've never been myself. And she's like, "Oh, you've never been, and it's just there." And he says, "No, it's
Yeah.
dangerous." And he starts to tell her all the family members he's had that have died there, that have gotten themselves killed there. And it sounds like they probably got themselves killed there for legitimate reasons,
Right.
but still he says, oh, it's because the town is dangerous, not because, I don't know, maybe they got themselves killed for legitimate reasons. I don't know. So he says, well, you could just stay here with me. And he says, I need a family to work the farm. And she's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. He says,
I'm
but
gonna die
I'm
soon.
going to
This
die
can all be
soon, and
yours.
this
It's
could
like,
all be
what?
this could all be yours. She's just like, I'm good. I'm good. That was hilarious. I'm not gonna live long. No, thanks. I'm good. So she gets out of there as soon as possible. But that was just such a
Hmm.
funny scene. And granted, this was not, it didn't look like it was really much to.
But I guess it did set up how she knew where Philly was,
Yeah, that's how
like how
she
to get
figured it out.
there.
Yeah,
So,
that's how, because, remember, Chet tells her, you have no idea where you're going
yep.
when she leaves the vault. You don't know what direction to go. And she did. She just set out kind of mindlessly and just whatever direction. And this is how she found Philly, was this guy literally pointed her in the right spot. So now we go back to Max, and yes, he takes the suit, and we see scenes of him trying it out, and he thinks he's really hot stuff. So he's
Yep.
figuring out what the power armor does. He's out there, yeah, do do do, throwing things. Finds out he can literally throw them like a football field length or farther, whatever. He's having a good old time, and they're playing "It's a Man" by Betty Hutton,
Yep.
which is perfect.
Made a note of that.
So the armor looks great. We've already commented on that, but just the way that he's moving, it looks like it's pretty easy to move around in. You see him kind of hesitate. He looks at it. The
Which,
interior looks like it does in the game. And the way
yeah,
he climbs into it is exactly the way we climb into it in the game. Like you got the
yeah,
handholds and you have to pull
Fallout Ford
yourself up
76. Yeah.
and put your feet onto the little foot um pads or whatever. And then it closes up behind you. It looks so cool. And but he's out there throwing rocks at walls and knocking buildings down and crazy stuff. He doesn't realize exactly how much he can do. And he hears a couple people fighting. So he goes to investigate because he knows he's a tough guy now. So he's
Yeah.
gonna go investigate, and he sees two people fighting, and he decides to break it up. And he
Yeah.
takes the what
He,
he sees as the aggressor and pins him down and lets the other guy go, essentially,
yeah.
who says
He's trying to be the knight in shining
he
armor,
is,
literally, but
he is.
didn't assess
But
the
he doesn't know the
situation properly.
situation,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
the guy who was being beat up on says, "Thank you. You are a knight and you are what is a gentleman and a
yeah,
scholar." And he
something like
leaves,
that.
and he doesn't even ask the guy what's going on until after the guy's left.
And
And
he's,
then go ahead.
and he's like, the guy was fucking my chick.
And then he's like,
And Max is just like,
"Oh,
oh, um, all
well,
right.
carry on. Have a good day." Whatever he said. And you can see that he enjoys the power that the suit gives him, but he just
With great power comes great responsibility.
responsibility that he hasn't quite figured out yet. Yeah.
But you mentioned the maneuverability. That's actually what he was asking Titus about in the vertebrate. He's
Right,
like,
he
"Oh, this
was.
T60. Did you add this to it to
Did you
because
add the
give it extra maneuverability
I
and
can't remember what it
yeah,
was now, and I had it in my head. Some sort of lining, the some kind of lining.
yeah.
If he'd added that to help with maneuverability, and that was when Titus was just like crotch plate.
Here, clean this."
And so yeah, he was having a good old time, thought he was doing something good. Turned out he was on the wrong side of the situation. But pay attention to your chicken fucker. Oh, my husband had a joke about that. Where did I put it? Oh, he called him Colonel Cluckenfuck. He said I had to put that in there, and I did take a note on that, but I couldn't. I lost it. Oh wait, no, I lost it. I don't know where it went. But then we see that Max finds out that the suit has jet power, and then he's off. He's off to playing again, so he's good. It does. He doesn't let it worry him too much that he kind of was on the wrong side of that situation. He's just off playing with his new toy. So now we're in Philly with Lucy, and we notice that she's kind of taken in the sights, but people aren't as open and friendly as she is. Are you muted? Can't
Yeah,
hear
I
you.
guess so.
There you are.
Yeah, she sees a bunch of people and greets them, but they completely ignore her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Everybody that she walks by, she's like, "Oh, hi. Hey." And they all just like, they look at her and just keep going. Like they don't
mhm.
even acknowledge her, anything. It's not like she's invisible. It's just like she's there and they're just like, "What on earth?" And they just pass right by her. We see her passing different vendors. They're trying to sell her some dog meat and iguana, and it's
There's a
actually
goat, like, and it looked like it wasn't mutated. I was like, What's with the goat?"
right.
But
Yeah,
and
there's
same
a
with the
couple
chickens. The
places where
chickens
we
weren't
see,
mutated either. I'm like,
yeah, the chickens weren't mutated. Yeah, there's places where we see non-mutated animals, and it's like, you don't see
yeah,
that.
but they had a great looking Brahmin,
The
and
Brahmin was amazing.
which,
Yeah, she walked past a
yeah,
Brahmin. It had two heads. It was beautiful. It was like, oh, it looks so sweet. It had such a
yeah,
sweet face. It was so cute.
yeah,
She takes in the town. It's very megatonish. She walks through an airplane fuselage to get to the center of town,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
It
all
was
done
built
kind of
up with like
circle wise,
wrecked
like
cars
megaton.
and yeah,
That brought back a lot of megaton feelings. It wasn't done exactly like it. It wasn't like they cut and paste, but it was very not. It was very cool, and it makes sense to use whatever you can find, an airplane fuselage, all those
yeah. I
kinds
mean,
of
like you
things to
think
build
back
up a
to like
town.
Diamond City as well,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
yeah.
anything like that. It did. It was a
I
lot.
will be
I mean,
right
Diamond
back.
City had the
Actually,
advantage of being in a ballpark.
yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll just talk about all this. So she passes through, she walks right past the ghoul, who's just casually sitting in a chair, hat over his face so nobody can recognize him. And he's fiddling with a vial in his hand. We see this in the trailer where he is just fiddling with a vial, and we don't know what the vial is, but she walks right past him. Doesn't take note of him, of course, because he's just part of the background. He is part of the scenery. There's people fighting in the streets. She almost runs into somebody. It's, just a general kind of chaos that you see in a town. She notices a shop that has Vaultec items in the window. So she decides to try this shop. And this is Ma Jun's shop. So she goes into the store and we we see a few Easter eggs in here. We see the Pit Boy, we see bobbleheads, we see some different things. There's a sign outside that says that we trade for caps only, which makes you think that there's something between these people and the NCR. They don't take any of the NCR money, so we don't know what that story is, but they only accept caps, no NCR money. And she goes in and she talks to Ma June. She opens up with, um, I see that you have Vault-Tec items, and Vault-Tec items are the property of vault dwellers. So therefore, you must deal with criminals. And that's just a
Another
great way
failed
to start a
speech check.
conversation,
Yeah. She's like, excuse me.
right? I mean, that's just the perfect way to get to know somebody. Well, you must deal with criminals. And she's like, I'm
Yeah, but
not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, you know, and she's like, I'm just looking for one particular criminal. And of course,
right.
now she has Ma's attention, and Ma pulls out her famous line from the trailer where she
You're
says,
an actual vault dweller.
you're an actual vault dweller. I thought all you dipshits was dead. It's just so good.
Yeah, and
And then
but
Lucy
you
gets
know,
kind of the wind knocked out of her sails a little bit, and then we find out that she's looking, and and of course Ma thinks she's great. She's, come here, you gotta see this, you gotta see this. Until she finds out that Lucy's looking for Moldaver, and then
yeah, and then
everything
she's
just
like,
kind of
okay, get out of here.
shuts down. And she says, you gotta go. Nope, you gotta go.
Hmm.
You don't know what you're talking about. You know what you're into. You need to go. And she tells her, she says, you need to give up because you're so nice and clean, and you're
Their
just, this
teeth
is
are
too much for
good.
you. And Lucy says, well, you need to care more about the Vault-Tec mission because they're going to save America. And Ma
And
says,
how are they going to do that?
how are they going to do that? The vaults were nothing more than a hole in the ground for the rich folk to hide in while the rest
Mhm.
of us were left to burn. And if that's not truer words, then
Right?
I don't know what is, because it's true. Even my husband was like, she's right. And he doesn't know that much about Fallout. But I mean, everybody knows. I mean, certain people were allowed to get in the vaults, not everyone. I mean, even Vault-Tec had plan A, plan B, plan C. I mean, and we know oh gosh, now I'm going to forget the little, oh golly, the vault, not vault, but the crap. Why can't I remember now? You know, the things that you get into on the surface where Brian was. Brian Wilson, what was that thing that he was hiding in? Brian Wilson, that's the Beatles.
Oh,
Now listen
oh,
to me totally bungle this. Brian Wilson of the Beatles. No, the Beach Boys. My ADD is strong today, you guys. My ADD
was
is
the
off the chain.
shelters? No, not the shelters.
No, the little blue things
Um,
that you see everywhere in the wasteland. You know what I'm talking about.
oh, the yeah,
With the
the
little music.
pods.
No,
Um, like the
the affordable way for the radiation protection.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to. I always thought them as the pods.
Yeah, but they're not Vault Tech, but they were something else. But anyway, it was like the
Yeah,
poor
they're
man's
the rad
radiation.
protect, protection
Kind
on
of
a
reminded
budget
me
or
of like you
something.
could put a
Yeah,
quarter in it, and you could climb in. It's just kind of a
yeah,
thing. Anyway, y'all are probably back there going, "It's called this, you idiot." I know. I know. I'm
really.
feeling that
Scream at
myself.
your phone list.
So anyway, so Vault-Tec got all these plans, but only the vaults were for like people who could afford it, rich people or
Right,
people who had privilege, certain privilege. Because we know from Fallout 4, Nate was eligible because he was in the military. Um, because he wasn't really he was like, I don't know about this. I don't know if this is really necessary, but we know that he wouldn't have, we get the feeling he wouldn't have purchased it, but because he was in the military, he was eligible. He was on the list. So he was, that's how he got it. And then we know from the TV show that certain people could purchase it, but you had to be somebody to be in a good one. That's a spoiler. You had to be like management to be in a good vault, as she said. We don't know what good vault meant, but well, we as players do because we know what Vault-Tec was up to. She was probably trying to
yeah.
avoid being in
None
a
of them
vault
are
doing
good,
experiments.
but yeah, some of them are less intense than others.
That's just it. I mean, my guess is she didn't want to end up in a vault that was doing any kind of experimentation, especially since she was looking for a place for her daughter. She didn't want to
Right.
end up in like, I don't know, a vault that was, intentionally allowing radiation to seep in through the door, or the vault that only took 15-year-olds and under, something like that. But we
One man in a
digress.
crate of puppets.
There you go. But we digress again. So the whole scene between Lucy and Ma is hilarious. Um, but Ma's telling her, get out. She waves goodbye, tells her to leave.
Mhm.
And Lucy semi-graciously tries to make her departure. Well, thank you for your help, even though she didn't get any. And she leaves. And then we see Wilzig hitting town with four, and
And can I
him and
just say
Lucy.
though, like, keep pausing during the scene and looking at the decorations
I
in her
know.
shop. There's so much there.
There's so much stuff packed in her shop. There's so much stuff packed in town. And I know
Yeah.
that Nate Perkypile has posted a lot about things that he got really tickled about. Now
Yeah.
he's a former dev for Bethesda. He now has his own independent game that he's working on. But
Mhm.
he did a lot of work for like Fallout 4. I think he did some Fallout 3. Now I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to say something wrong, but he did a lot of work on like 76. So I know he did work in Fallout 4 because he said that there was a sign that they had up in Diamond City that they had put in Philly. And so he had shown that.
There's a
And
picture of his cats. Like, it was a
his
painting of his
cats
cats.
that he
Yeah.
had done the pictures of had made it into the show. The picture of Todd Howard riding the horse a la Napoleon made it into the show. There's a lot of stuff that is from the games that have made it into the shows as Easter eggs, more than just seeing a Pit Boy sitting in Moss shop.
I would have
That's just the
loved,
obvious
like,
thing. I mean, because I'm sure everybody has a Pit Boy somewhere. I've got one there,
I don't. I wish I did,
one
but
there. You know, I've got two. I only have two. Well, if you don't count my little stand for my Xbox controller. So she has a couple in her shops. I know there was at least two in her shop that I could see. There was
oh,
like
there were three
one.
or four of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a
just
bunch
there.
because I remembered there was one
And
that
there were
I saw
different
and I was like, oh
models
yeah,
too.
there's
Like,
another.
I want to say one of them was from Spirit Halloween. I could be wrong on that, but I think I saw
Oh,
somebody
I'm sure they
say that
grabbed
one of
up
them
stuff
was the
from
Spirit
wherever they
Halloween
could
one.
find it,
Yeah.
because prop people. I used to work props for my high school productions, and we just grabbed whatever we could that looked good. It's like
Yeah.
Goodwill, people's houses, your garage, it didn't matter. We just grabbed whatever we could get that looked good. I'm sure prop people in real movies aren't that much different, especially when it comes to things that aren't super common.
Got to make the money last.
Yes, you got to make the money last, especially if you want it for really good stuff and you want to pay for really good people. So,
But no, this is what I was referring to, where I said they packed so many things in this episode. Just all the Easter eggs, and like,
mhm.
where I had to keep rewinding. Like, did I really just see that hanging on the wall?
Well, and every time
And
you watch
there's
it,
more
like
to
I've
come.
seen this particular episode 3 or 4 times, and every time I
Yeah,
watch it, I see something new. I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that before.
yeah,
You're going to see something different every single time you watch it. And I'm sure this is not the last time. I watched it again last night to prepare, and
yeah.
I'll watch it again. I know it
Mhm.
won't be the last time. So she's coming out as Wilzig is going in. They run into each other, and she's like, oh, you again.
Yeah.
And he tries to tell her again,
Like, this
you
place
know,
is dangerous.
you
You need
really
to go
should go
home.
home.
Yeah,
This is not for you. And then he shocks her. Like she is literally floored, and he tells her everything about her vault.
yeah. That
Your
was like
vault is a
It's like he had a camera
meritocracy.
in there. Like,
Yes. It's like, how does he know all these things? Your vault is a meritocracy. You guys do this, and this is what you stand for, and da 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 da. And she's trying to ask him questions. How do you know these things?
yeah, like
How
he
do you
knew
know
about
all
their
this?
corn and everything else.
Right,
It's
you
like,
guys grow corn and blah blah blah. He knows everything. It's like he was there. And she's like, I don't know how you know these things. So Ma comes out and kind of interrupts them because she's like, I told you to leave. You need to be
right,
gone. And then she's like, are you Wilzik? You need to come inside with me. Well, then they get interrupted once again
by
because
the
the
ghoul.
ghoul has
And like there were the heads on the pikes that it's like
well
apparently she didn't notice those,
the
but
mannequin heads. They were just mannequin
yeah,
heads.
they were mannequin heads, but it's
But
still it's like
it was a little creepy, yeah.
yeah,
So the ghoul pops up and says, is there a doctor or are you a doctor or something like that? Because you look a
yeah,
lot like a doctor
somebody yeah that I'm
that I'm
looking
looking
for.
for or something. And Ma says, you know that your type is not welcome here. So I guess apparently Philly does not abide ghouls. They don't like ghouls.
Right.
And probably because they don't know who's feral, but apparently they don't take chances. Or maybe they just don't like him because he's bounty hunter. I don't know exactly the whole story, but you don't see any
Yeah,
ghouls there.
he's pretty well known.
He is.
He's
He
so
is the most famous bounty hunter, but you don't see any ghouls in the milieu. You don't see anybody in the background that's a ghoul. And he tells her that well, he's not too concerned about that. He just announces that there was a bounty that came through to all, what was it, all six,
something. Yeah,
was it
it is
like
a lot.
agencies, all six agencies.
Yeah, that's what it
So
was.
apparently it doesn't seem like he works for anybody, but maybe they contact him. I don't know. But apparently there's a lot of people who've been notified that this man has escaped the enclave. So he is a very, very wanted man. So he says he can recognize a bidding war when he sees one. And Ma says, I've been paid very well to ensure his safe passage out of Philly. And so he's like, well, we'll just see about that. So she draws on him. Ma draws on the ghoul, and the ghoul shoots Wilzig's foot off,
Laughing off. Yeah, it's
which
like right
is
below the knee.
really gross. So he's on the ground with his foot shot off, and everybody goes into hiding, and Ma's screaming, there's 1,000 caps in it for anybody who can take him out. So
But you
everybody
don't
starts
get a
shooting.
thing if I'm the one who does it.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, and nobody gets anything. And so everybody is trying to get the ghoul, and of course the ghoul just pops off everybody. It's an
Oh
amazing
my God,
shooting scene,
yeah. Two people with
and
one round at one point. It's like
yeah, and what
again,
perk
bloody
does the
mess.
ghoul have? He's got to have bloody mess as a perk.
Oh, for sure.
He has to, and he's using explosive rounds. I'm guessing, although we from his bandolier, it looks like he's got different types of rounds. We don't know what all they are because sometimes he'll like pick a certain one. But he's definitely got some explosive rounds. So he takes care of his competition. There's a kind of funny shot where he goes over, he just meanders over and he looks at, grabs some tomatoes and he's just snacking on some tomatoes.
He's
He
talking to this
offers
guy.
some to a guy that says, oh, well, I'd offer you some, but I see you got a hole in your neck.
Right.
Fallout humor through and through, I'm telling you. So then we see Lucy run into the store
Shop. Yeah, because she hears
and
everything going on and
she's looking around because she's taking this distraction moment because she wants to go through Ma's books and she wants to find out what the heck. And she finds out that Moldaver is the one who paid Ma to get Wilzig out of
yeah.
Philly. So she knows the truth that Moldaver is the one who's paying, that she's the client. So she now knows this and she hears all this going on and she's thinking, I've got to do something. And the girl looks at the wall at a junk
Sees
jet.
a junk jet that was 285 caps or something like that. She sees
But she could
an
have just
assault
grabbed it off the
rifle
wall,
and but
along
again,
with
I think this
many
is
other
yeah.
rifles and shotguns and whatever else off the wall. And what does she do? She looks at her trusty syringer on her hip and says, yeah, this is good. I'll just take this.
But again, I think this is her Vault Tech upbringing. Probably like,
Yeah, I
oh,
think it
the
is her
stealing is
morality.
wrong.
Her
So
morality,
if
I
I
think.
used any of these, this would be stealing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the junk jet, it's like that would have been the most efficient because you could have picked up rocks off the ground. You could have picked up anything and used it. Like you can kill people with teddy bears and wads of
Right?
premium money. It would have been the most efficient
She could have thrown
weapon
that
she could
bobblehead
have
in there.
used. But she goes with the syringer.
She goes with her surrender, which to be fair, did her well in the vault with the Raiders. That did just fine. But we know it's not gonna, yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting there. So she marches herself outside. Well, in the meantime, while she's making her decision, Ma gets shot in the knee.
Yep.
Uh, and
Which I
for
wasn't
the
expecting that either. But
right for Ma to get shot, and then four, I guess four just decides, oh, my daddy's in pain. There's a lot going on. Four attacks the ghoul,
yeah.
and he ends up stabbing her. Which anytime a dog gets hurt, I'm gonna cry. So I'm like, no. So we see, and these are from my notes. Wilzig, I got tired of typing Wilzig over and over. Wilzig, he seems to take this harder than losing his foot, I think, because the look
Yeah,
on his
he
face
was
when he sees
he
her
was
get
really
stabbed
upset.
is like,
Yeah.
oh, which is how I would feel too.
I think all of us had that reaction actually.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, especially since it's only the second episode, and we're like, no, Dogby can't die, and it's just, we're just like, no, yeah. So we see her get stabbed, and it's really sad. So Lucy comes outside, and she's like, okay, I feel like we need to take a beat here. So she's trying to be diplomatic. She's trying to, she's using her educated vault tech education, and she's trying to talk him down. And she's like, you
Again,
know,
another failed speech check, which
another failed
poor
speech
girl's
check.
charisma must be super low.
She her speech is definitely really low for sure. Her charisma might be okay, but her speech is definitely way
Yeah.
in the dumps. She's just her speech checks are just not they're not making it in this show. She's she's just like, okay, I think that we did blah blah blah, and
You
I
got off
think
on the
that
wrong foot.
yeah, and I think that
Which, considering
everyone
how
here would
like
agree that
Wilsig's
you're
right
being the
there, the wrong
aggressor
foot.
here. And if you're going to take that out on me because I'm just trying to point out the problem, then, it's just like, and he's just looking at her like,
He's like cocking his head, like, "Are you serious right now?"
whatever, and she gets another fucking vault from Ma.
Yeah. Ah,
So
dude,
he
that kind of
starts to
reminded
take
me
a
of
step towards her. The
this
vault's just like,
scene.
whatever. So he walks towards her. And so she shoots him with her syringer. And of course, he just pops it out and looks at it. And we get the other famous line from the trailer. Well, now, this is a
It's
very
a very
small
small
drop in
drop,
a very,
very
very
big.
large bucket of drugs,
Yeah.
which tells us a little bit about him.
Yep.
He must do a lot of drugs because
But
this
at
does
that
not
at this
affect
point, we don't
him
know what. But yeah,
one
we
bit.
just assume it's like jet or something.
We don't know, so
Yeah.
this little sedative doesn't affect him one bit. So as
Mhm.
he's starting to raise his gun, like he's going to shoot her, here comes Max again to save the day.
Yep.
And of course, he's pretending to be Titus, right? He
Mhm.
actually flies in. I am Max Titus of the Brotherhood of Steel. Unhand her, whatever. Now, I hate this part. I don't love the flying
Yeah,
a la
I don't
Tony
either, but
Stark. I don't.
it did provide some nice combat with the ghoul coming up. Um,
With the
he
flying,
definitely took advantage of that, yeah. But I
I
wasn't a fan
mean,
of it either because again, you don't see that in any of the games. They
we
just
don't
do
do
the
that in
big
any of the games,
Tony
right? We don't
Stark
have the little
superhero landing.
handy things like Iron Man. We have jetpacks. Why couldn't he have a jetpack like we
Yeah, he
do?
had a like a flamer attached to his arm at one point, didn't he? Like when he was
He
still
does. He has
getting
like
used
little
to it,
hand. He has a little hand things
which
like
that was
Iron
straight out
Man,
of Iron Man. Yeah.
right? And I mean, like when he's standing on top of the crate of the big shipping crate, and instead of flying off of that, couldn't he just jump off of it like boom and hit the ground and
Yeah,
have the
that
ground
would have
shake
made
we
that would
do
have
in
been
the
more
game?
intimidating. Yeah,
Right. It would have been way more intimidating because it would have
and
shown like how heavy it is and
is
how
it
strong
Fallout
it
4?
is.
You can actually damage people with shockwave.
Well, you got Pain Train.
Yeah,
He could have just run over him, And then and you get to see the nice advance where he's walking towards him and the ghoul's shooting him, and and the bullets are just bouncing off. But
Hmm.
I hated the whole flying, like the little
Yeah,
butterfly flying in entry. I don't know, it was weird to me.
that was my little gripe, like one of the only gripes I've had.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I didn't like. So Max tackles Lucy to keep her safe, and they fall into a building, but he's basically her shield. And the ghoul's shooting, but nothing's happening because, of course, the armor is deflecting everything. And he lifts his shield, and she sees his face. And of course, we see she basically has little hearts in her eyes because, she's just like, oh, hi. And she's instantly in love, we see. And Max tells her that Wilzig is very important and that she needs to take care of him while he deals with the ghoul. And he's confident that he is going to take care of this ghoul, that everything's going to be like done and over with in no time, and that he'll be right back with her and they will take care of this Wilzig problem together. So she's like, okay,
Yeah,
no problem. And then he goes to deal with the ghoul. Well, the ghoul's just having a ball with this guy. He's like leading him around, making him chase him. He gets thrown into the stairs and he breaks the stairs and he scrambles up to the top, and the ghoul taunts Max and says, well, I would invite you to come up, but you can't come up broken stairs with, what is it, a 12-piece set of a 12-piece skillet set on your back.
something like that. Yeah, like he
Something.
apparently the ghoul is very intimately knowledgeable of power armor because he knew right where to cut.
Yeah, we find that out, that he
Yeah,
knows, which we will bring that up later when we find out some
hmm,
other things about the power armor, about this
yeah,
whole fight. And I think it's just because he's having fun with this.
yeah.
Um,
He just assumes that he's gonna come in here and everything. Like he's just gonna handle everything single handedly.
well, and I don't think that his intention at this point is to kill Maximus,
No,
which is why I think that he doesn't use his knowledge. So
yeah,
Max is messing around. He really doesn't know what he's doing. And I think the ghoul realizes this because he actually says later, um, rule number one, read the instruction manual. So
yep.
I think he realizes like early on that this guy has no clue what power armor
He's
does, how
new.
it
Yeah,
works, or that, that he thinks he knows this kid's just messing around and doesn't know what he's doing. And that becomes obvious because Max gets his foot stuck in a boardwalk and he doesn't know how to get it out. And the ghoul kind of just basically comes up to him and cuts his hydraulic line, which causes Max to
yep.
lose control. And then he just starts flying all around. And the ghoul ends up, what, lassoing him
Yeah, yeah. He
and then sends him flying into the woods, which is kind of a funny thing. And that's why I don't think the ghoul was trying to kill him, because I think he knew the kid had no idea what he was doing.
if he wanted to, he would have.
He could have. We know that
Yeah.
later, that he could have easily. But I think he was really just kind of like, oh, this will be fun. Let's show this guy who thinks he's all that he's nothing. And I think that's what he was doing. So then we go back inside, and Lucy comes in to see what's going on, and Ma is trying to fix um she's trying to fix Wilzig's foot.
Yeah, she had like a robotic foot that she was attaching to him.
Okay, but what about
Um,
that meat grinder thing that she used to get it on there?
oh my God,
Is that
yeah,
not
that
gross? So she
oh,
like
and
holds up
he
this thing that looks like a
clearly didn't
meat
feel good.
grinder to like rah, 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 attached to his leg. And oh my God, that guy should have passed out. That looked painful.
Well, and the thing is, she said that this was only a temporary solution. Um,
Ah,
so
it looked
she's
painful.
because yeah, well, and it sounded painful too from you because he was
And
screaming
did
the
they
whole
even give
time.
him a stim pack?
I don't think so.
I didn't see
Um,
one. Like
but
that
it's like
dude could have used one
yeah, and
or
I
a
mean we'll
few.
get into this in the episode. Was it episode four where Lucy has a finger
Yeah, her
reattached,
finger. Yeah.
but So, that sort of thing does kind of exist, and maybe a stim pack would have helped him regrow his leg because it
Well,
seems
not
to help
regrow
with
so
so many
much,
other
but
things. But,
like it
um,
probably would have prevented the excess bleeding
yeah,
that he had.
but
So she meat grinds this
this
attachment to his leg,
onto his leg,
and
yeah.
then she screws on this metal foot that looks like a little ski. Is what it looks like. Because he's convinced that I can still make the trip. And she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how. And he says, well, she can take me. And he's talking about Lucy. And Lucy's like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't think I can do that. I got my own thing going
Lucy
on.
comes in, she's like, "Was that a Brotherhood night? Oh
Yeah,
my
that's it. Yeah. And
God,
everybody else is like,
back me
this is
both
what you want to talk
throwers!"
about right now. She's like, was that a night? And they're all like, we got better things to do than talk about your love life.
Fuck.
Yeah, that was pretty inappropriate for the moment. And she's just like, "Oh, was that a night?" That was so cute. Yeah. So Lucy. So Ma convinces her you can take him, and you're going to have to because he says he trusts her. There's no one else that they can trust. And
Yeah,
so Ma tells her, "My client is Moldaver, and if you want to get to Moldaver to get your dad, you can take him." Because that's who she wants, and that'll get you in to see her dad. Because, in other words, you're not going to get in. You're not going to be able to get in there to talk to him unless you have leverage, and this is your leverage. So Lucy agrees because the only thing she wants is her dad. Because she even said, she goes, "What does Moldaver want with him? She kidnaps dads,"
yeah.
which was funny. She kidnaps dads. It was like, yeah, that's what she does for a living. She just kidnaps
Uh,
dads.
yeah, and it just goes
Oh,
to
you
show
don't
like,
have kids?
she's
I
still
don't want to
very
kidnap
fresh out of the
you.
vault.
Yeah, it was
But
really funny. I thought it was a funny line. Like she just, you're a
he
dad,
kidnaps
I'll
her.
kidnap you. It was kind of funny. It's just like, well, this guy wants, she wants him and he doesn't have kids. He has a dog. So I guess he counts. He's a dog dad. So I love the part where Ma's like, well, here, let me mark it on your map. Like she's Preston. Preston
Here's
Garvey.
a settlement that needs your help.
Here's a settlement that needs your help or you need to find. So that's pretty good. I did like that. So if she, you see her mark it on the Pit Boy, just like we have, stuff marked
Yeah.
on our Pit Boys in the game. It's pretty good. So you see them leaving town, and we see Colonel Cluckenfuck out there trying to sell
Sell
trying
serums.
to sell
Yeah.
them serums. I
Serum.
can sell serums to heal you, or I can
Yeah.
regrow your foot. Always the opportunist. And he's out there trying to sell them things, and then you see Max fly away across the sky, and Lucy gets a little smile on her face.
Still screaming too. It's like,
But Lucy gets a little smile on her face, like, "Oh, there goes my boyfriend."
yeah.
It's too funny. And then we go back, and the ghoul, now that everything is done with everything he's doing, he goes into the shop and he sees evidence of all the blood and that Wilzik is gone, that they've managed to patch him up and everything. And he finds four, the dog that he stabbed, and he brings her in and puts her on a table and he gives her a stim pack because she's still alive.
Yeah.
And we see
Which
her hop right up because the stim pack has done its job and she leaves with him. And so that
which a
shows
lot of
that,
people are like, oh, the ghoul does have a heart.
yeah,
And to an extent, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, okay, he knows that this dog belongs to Wilsig. So of course the dog is want to go
she's
find its
going to,
master.
he's going to
So
try and,
yeah, the
and
dog's
use the
gonna
dog to
lead
lead him
him
to
to, yeah,
Wilzig, to track Wilzig. Yeah, so of course, I mean, he probably has a little bit of heart, a little bit
a
of a
little
soft
bit.
spot for dogs, but he also is smart enough to yes, know that this dog can track me to its owner. So we think, we're like, oh, he has a heart spot or a soft spot in his heart for this dog, but at this point, it is probably more practical. He's smart enough to think that I need this dog. So yeah, it's probably not so much of the soft spot, but we want to think that he does still have some humanity left in him.
Yeah.
And he probably does. And we see later that
We
he
yeah, we find
he
out
is a
later.
dog person. We do find that out later, but there's just some things that it may not have been as altruistic as it looked, maybe.
Right.
So now we go back and we see Lucy and Wilzig traipsing across the desert, and he's actually doing pretty good. He's not trailing behind her too far, considering he's probably in a lot of pain.
Hmm.
Probably could have used something. But they decide to stop and rest by a Russian satellite that has fallen out of the sky. And Wilzig says, well, this will have to do. And Lucy says, well, we still have another 20 miles to go. Like she's trying to like, you can do it, with her little Lucy,
Yeah.
her positive attitude. And he says,
Nope.
and she's like, how are you doing? And you see that he's just bleeding all over his new foot. And he says, I'm not going to make it. And she's still like, no, no, you can. We can do this. We'll make it. And he says, nope, I've already taken a cyanide capsule. And he
Yep.
explains about the Voltec Plan D. It's
Hmm.
quick, it's painless, and it tastes like banana. I'm surprised it wasn't more popular. And so,
He said it was one of the more altruistic things that Vaultec did, or
yep,
something to that
yeah, that it
extent.
was one of the better choices that Voltec made. And that he was surprised that it wasn't a more popular option, but then it probably may have been popular if people really knew what they were going to be looking at.
Yeah.
If people really knew what they were going to be getting into, then possibly it would have been more popular. But considering people, A, didn't really believe it, B, didn't want to accept it, C, just had no way of imagining something so horrible that could
Could actually
actually
happen. Yeah,
exist,
it's like prepare for the worst, but who's to say
but
it
who's to
won't actually
really,
happen?
yeah. I mean, nobody would. I think people in general, even pessimistic people, aren't that pessimistic that they still don't have a little bit of optimism, like it's really not going to be that bad, or they just can't think in terms that bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, people aren't going to think like, yeah, first thing I want to do is off myself. They're like, oh, I'll make it somehow. I think human beings tend to feel like they can be resilient. It's just we're programmed to
Right.
survive, I think.
Hmm.
So that's probably why it wasn't that popular. But we do know that some people took that route because she runs across that
She found
house.
family like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where that family with, at least the woman and her children. I don't remember if there was a man there, a male skeleton. I just remember the woman with the pearls, the pearl earrings, the baby in the high chair, and then a smaller skeleton at the table.
Yeah.
They had all opted for the Plan D. I'm assuming Plan D is death. There may not have been a B
Probably.
or
Yeah.
C. I don't know. It might just be
Unless
alt
there
school
were three
Plan
other
D.
plans that they had. I mean, aside from the vaults, I don't know. The vaults are
Right.
probably A. I don't know.
I mean, we
But
don't really know if there was a B or C. They
no,
might just call it D for death. I don't know.
could
So
be.
he's already taken this, and he tells her that she needs to go ahead and take him to um, whatever her name is. And she says, well, I can't. How am I going to take your body when you're dead? And he's like, no, just my head. That's the important part. Just my head. And I don't know if he indicates his ear or whatever. I think she found that incidentally later, but he says, just my head. That's the important part. Just take my head. And he pulls out a ripper and says, here. And she's like,
He.
oh, you want me to,
Yeah,
and
that was a ripper.
yeah,
Yeah.
he gives her a ripper, which we know from game, but she's kind of, ooh. And he starts talking to her some more. Um, he convinces her. He says the reason he knows she can do it is because she's a vault dweller, but she needs to start acting like a surface dweller if she's going to survive.
Hmm.
And he calls her Miss McLean.
Yeah. And she's like, "How do you know my name?
And
Tell
it's
me." And
right
then
before he dies. And she's
yeah,
like, how do you know my name? How do you know my name? But of course,
yeah,
he probably didn't want to reveal everything to her, and he timed it perfectly where she's never going to know how he knew all these
yeah.
things. We will probably never know how he knew all these things unless we find out that Enclave and Vault Tech were hand in hand. If we find that out at some point in time, that might be a season 2 or 3 thing.
I mean, you do kind of know that from the games, but again, anybody who isn't a fan wouldn't know.
Like normal people, yeah, because we have to
Yeah.
kind of look at this as like people. Because I know I have a friend who is he texted me the other day. He's like, I'm deep diving, reading about the Lord. It's your fault. Because he watched the TV show and he
Yeah,
knows I'm into Fallout, but he's never played the games.
we've all kind of had
And,
the these things happen. Like I've had friends call and text me like, "Hey, I'm watching the show now. I get why you're
right.
why you like this so
Yeah,
much."
because he's like, he goes, this stuff is so messed up. I love it. And I'm like, I knew you
Yep,
would. This is why I've been
exactly.
telling you. But it's like, he's into other games and it's, sometimes you just don't have time to get into everything you want to get into
Yeah.
until something gets you into it.
I mean,
But
you play
she's,
Fallout 3, and there's that elementary school right there outside Vault 101, and there's a prison cell full of,
mhm,
child skeletons. It's like,
scary,
yeah,
isn't
there's
it?
a lot of
It
messed up
gives a
stuff in the
whole new
games.
definition to detention.
Yeah.
But
But at the same time, you've got these, very happy songs playing while it's going on, so it's okay.
right, because it's just reading time. just it's just a new way to keep order in the classroom. But so he freaks her out because how does he know her name? But he dies. So she gets up,
Yeah.
she looks around, she's totally freaking out, but you can see she's getting her resolve back. She's gathering herself together and she turns around and she gets the Ripper out and she's like, okie dokie. And you hear, I don't want to set the world on fire. And then
Yeah.
we go into the closing sequence and
You see a Slocum's Joe on the horizon.
yeah, yeah, when she was looking around, there's a Slocum's Joe out there. But it's just
Yeah.
like we can already see that her okie dokies are changing. Like I said before, it's like her I am Groot.
Okie
And
dokie.
she's already her okie dokies are already like okie dokie, and they're already like
Hmm.
changing to okie dokie. So she's
Yeah.
she's already changing. She's got this resolve. So now she's gonna do it. She's gonna cut this guy's head off. And so this is where episode 2 leaves off is Lucy's going to take the head to Moldaver now. And so we have that to look forward to. So tell us what you think of episode 2 or any kind of things that
Oh
we
my
might have
God.
missed or any thoughts that you have
I
on
mean, I'm
that.
sure we did because, like I said, there's
There's so
so many
much.
things packed into that
There's so
episode, like so
much.
many Easter eggs
It's
and
like, how do you
foreshadowing,
not?
and
Like I said, I've
yeah,
watched it 3 times and I was still picking up things last night that I was adding to
hmm
my notes. And of course, then I
that
had my
that's
husband
just
giving me
adds to the
fun things to
brilliance
add.
of how well done this is.
It
And
so
yeah,
is.
a lot of things we don't really find out until later on in the show, but they do
Right.
such a good job at giving you clues
They do.
that,
And of course, but the thing is that you love about that is that you have like your own little questions that do get answered later, but you're just like, oh my gosh, what about this? What about this? And
right,
some things get answered, some don't. We're hoping that some get some get answered in the second season. Some things we
hmm
know from games, but then we think like, well, what about? So that's why I've enjoyed watching it with
but
my husband because
yeah,
he doesn't play Fallout. And
I don't
so
think
it's
it's
been,
until
did
episode
you
7 or 8 that you
hear?
find out about what's in his head. But
But did you hear that we might not get season 2 until 2026?
was it 2026? I thought,
That's what
yeah,
somebody said. They
at the
said
very
with the
earliest,
shooting
it'd be like the
schedule
end
and
of
stuff, we might not see it
2025.
till 20. I'm hoping for 2025. I'll
But I
cry if
also
it's
heard
20.
that they did film a little bit, while they were filming season
You
one.
would
So
think, right?
I don't know.
I hope that it's no later than next year.
Yeah.
And they also said, because I was watching, I forget who it was, somebody on YouTube was talking about season 2. They said 26. I'm like, you better be wrong. Um, but they were also saying that Amazon may do it the way they did The Boys, where they binged the first season, and then second season they put like a couple episodes out, and then they went weekly.
I hope
Which
so.
I could see that because, like people were saying, they were like, I bet they put all the episodes out because they weren't sure if it was going to do very well, so they just put
And
everything
it
out at
did.
once. And yes, I mean the ratings from like Rotten Tomatoes and IGN, everybody's rated it so
Yeah.
high. I'm not even talking about just the fans or the Tim Kaine or any of these people that matter. far as I'm concerned. I don't care
Right.
what Rotten Tomatoes says. You don't count because even though Jonathan Nolan said he's not doing it for the fans because you can't please everybody, he was doing it for himself, who is a fan.
But it's
It's
so well
amazing.
done.
It's amazing. Now, yeah, I didn't love the flying power armor, but that is
That's
the
nitpicking
only
though,
thing
really.
that
Yeah.
I have found wrong in this whole show, and I can overlook that with
Yeah,
everything else that
exactly.
I love. I mean, the power armor looks amazing. Yeah, I don't love the fact that it flies around like Iron Man, but it looks awesome. And
Hmm.
you don't, I mean, I don't care. Fine, I'll let that go. I wish
Yeah,
it was a
they're
little more.
meant to be
I want
walking
to see it
tanks,
like,
not
I want to
walking
see it
jet
pound the
planes.
ground like we do in the games.
Yes.
But, if I don't, whatever. I'll go in game and do it. It's fine. I don't even
And
wear power armor in the game. Why do I care? I don't even wear power armor in the game.
I don't either. Like when we were doing the Fallout 4 survival run with the Fallout feed, like it just power armor was the farthest thing from my mind. So I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to go through the glowing sea with
Yeah, I
you
only wear
know,
it for
in
circumstances. Yeah.
survival? And like, why aren't you using power armor? You number one, you'll die less. Number
All
two,
right. You need the
it
radiation
provides rat
resistance.
protection. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit, that's right. I got power armor at the beginning
Yeah.
of the
That's
game.
the only time I use it is like certain circumstances. Like in 76, I only use it when I'm over encumbered and I need that extra 100 pounds carry weight. Then I'll pull out my excavator armors. Although sometimes I'm so over encumbered, even my excavator power
Yeah.
armor is not going to do it for me. I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm doing
like
the walk of
when we're
shame.
doing a Scorch Beast Queen in a nuke zone with the Motosfiles crew,
Yeah.
uh, especially during Jingle or Spooky Scorched.
Yeah. I hate doing
Uh,
the queen in the nuke zone. I like doing where you're on the edge. I like
yeah,
that
well,
better.
I mean, the, it's mainly for the mobs, like the
Yeah,
swarms of things. Like if you use your Chinese stealth armor, that provides, and I've got my wet rads up to 100%.
that's what I should do.
So there's that, but at the same time, like the Chinese stealth armor doesn't provide as much physical protection as my Secret Service armor. But anyway,
That's it. That's what I need to do. Is now that I've gotten higher levels, I need to revisit my builds and my perk cards and stuff. I've
yeah,
not looked at those in a while.
which I never deal with that unless I'm doing something with the Gato crew.
Yeah, because you have to change everything around. Thou
Okay, I
shalt
got
not use
my
this
build
card or this card.
for
Yeah.
the Claw Brawls. I got my build now for the Rock'em Sock'em Power Armor fights.
Which
So
is the cool thing about being able to have multiple builds, and you could just swap
yeah,
them and not worry about it. That works out well. Well, let's wrap this one up, and we'll
all
be back
right,
with episode 3 soon-ish, whenever we can find time to do this again. So
yeah.
thanks for hanging in there with us, and we'll see you again. Take it easy.
Bye, everybody.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
How well do you know your video game lovers?
Have you ever wondered how your video game bays stack up against all the other delectable digital dates?
I'm Genesis, the girl whose motto in life is love, laugh, tequila. And on Two Girls, One Ship, we analyze, rate, and review all that the world of video game romances has to offer.
And I'm Vervada, the hopeless romantic cat lady and lifelong gamer.
But you should know that our podcast centers on character and romance analysis and doesn't shy away from exploring the fun of physical connection.
Or from the deep emotional connections built between two characters, using specific in-game dialogue and the overall narrative journey. So join the Two Girls, One Ship shipsters, and remember,
Beauty is in the eye of the controller.